Okay, good evening, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Monday, the 23rd day of November 2020. This is a municipal caucus of the Jersey City Municipal Council. In effort to adhere to social distancing protocols and best practices imposed by the city and state authorities, the City of Jersey City has canceled all public meetings and closed non-essential services as of March 16, 2020 until further notice. As a result, this council caucus will be held virtually as a video conference with public access. We had a scheduled 4 p.m. start. The clock on my computer is showing 4:01 p.m. May I have a roll call for the commencement of this caucus? Councilperson Ridley. Not here. Councilperson Prinzeri.
Here.
Councilperson Baggiano.
Here.
Councilperson Soleil is not here yet.
Here.
Oh,
Here.
he's here. There you go. Sorry about that. Councilperson Solomon is not here yet. Okay, Councilperson Robinson.
Here.
Councilperson Lavaro.
Here.
Councilperson Rivera.
Here.
And Council President Waterman.
Here.
We have 7 members in attendance at 4:01 p.m. In
Sean,
addition,
I just joined. Councilwoman Ridley.
okay, Councilperson Ridley, you are present. So now we have 8 members in attendance at 4:02. I'll mark you present. p.m. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Wednesday, November 18th, 2020 at 1 p.m. to the mayor, council, business administrator, and and the newspapers, and posted on our website so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Okay. Council President, if you want, I'll take it from the top.
Yes, Sean, go ahead.
Very good. Okay, our first item is item 3.1, City Ordinance 20-101, an ordinance of the City of Jersey City and the County of Hudson, New Jersey, providing for a special emergency appropriation of $13 million, providing for the payment of contractually required severance liabilities resulting from the layoff or retirement of employees.
Questions? Who's here for that? Anybody?
I'm here, Council President, and we also have
Okay.
Liz here. This is for our accumulated absence liability annually. Essentially, retired employees, when they are compensated for their accrual time, we bond for this amount. We put it not to exceed 13 million just to make sure we cover the liability. We'll only authorize what the amount is approved for in terms of actual accrual days. And the way this is budgeted is you'll see in the special emergency section of the budget an installment of 1/5 of that amount annually over 5 years.
Any questions?
So John, this is Councilman Lavaro. So the 13.3 million is covering severance and retirement payouts for the year 2020, or is it 2019, or?
Yeah, it's 2020, so it's anybody that's retired up until today, and then through December 31st, we added extra funds in case there are some additional retirees.
Okay, can you provide us with the list of anticipate the retirements, and then that are current, that serve as the basis for the $13.3 million?
Sure, I'll get that from HR, but I believe just off the top of my head, it covers approximately 90 or 91 individuals, but I'll get you the exact list with the referenced individuals.
Can you give us the reference individuals, their department, division, and their payout, and the amount of their payout anticipated? Yes. And then obviously this is for 5 years, so we're still paying for the previous 5 years, right? So every year there's been something similar, maybe not every year, but most of the past 5 years. Can you give us the cumulative for those payouts over the past 5 years, and how much is left remaining on those balances?
Sure, absolutely.
Great.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, Sean.
Okay. Just for the record, I want to mark Councilperson Solomon present at 4:03 p.m. So now we have all 9 council members present. Okay. Item 3.2, City Ordinance 20-102, an ordinance amending Chapter 254, Property Maintenance, Article 6, Minimum Standards for Basic Equipment and Facilities, Section 254-27, Heating Facilities, Duty to Supply Heat, to amend the regulations on boiler inspections. Any questions or comments?
So, Council, I don't know if you received some questions from residents, but I was receiving a lot of questions from residents in regards to a notice that they received about boiler inspections.
Yes.
So I've reached out, and basically the gist of it is that there's a law that was on the books, I believe since the 80s, that states that boilers must be inspected annually in all residential buildings. So that means everything from a one-family home on up. And that if it is not, there is a fee that the resident can incur because of, you know, the boiler not being inspected. So I thought that was a bit much. A lot of my residents in one-family homes were reaching out and not really understanding why they were receiving this notice. And basically what was said is that as long as a tenant does not reach out and complain about heat, then no inspector is going out to review the boiler. But in my mind, I don't think that we should be sending out notices to people, especially if we are not going to be active and review everyone's boiler. It is a big load on small homeowners to have their boiler inspected once a year, because they're going to have to call PSE&G or a plumber or somebody who's versed in inspecting boilers and have this notification. And furthermore, if it's a one-family home, I really don't see the point because you're only impacting yourself in that case. So my suggestion, and I'm open to discussion around this, but my suggestion was to update the ordinance to make it for 4 families or higher, and to change it from once a year to every 2 years that it should be inspected. So that's what this ordinance is for.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I have no problem. Anyone?
Is the requirement that's currently in place, is that based on any statutory requirements, or there's a?
Well,
This
the
is Captain
law
Solomon,
department,
Chairman,
and I
Connections.
don't know if, I'm sorry, I think somebody else was talking. I know the law department was looking into it just to make sure that it doesn't conflict with any state laws. So we'll make sure of that before we take the actual vote. I don't know if Nick or anyone is on from the law department, but that is something that we are going to verify.
Is there someone there from the law department to comment on that?
So we're actually looking at that now. We'll make sure we can confirm that before the meeting on December 2nd.
Great.
Any other
Oh.
questions?
Any other? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is
Go ahead.
Councilman Solomon. Sorry, my connection's spotty. I just wanted, how are condos approached? So if a condo, I guess if somebody owns less than 4 units and they're renting them out in a condo, would they not be subjected to the ordinance?
You're saying if they're renting them out as condos, so it will be considered a one family? So no, they wouldn't be subjected to the ordinance, because that would technically be a one family. Like currently now I have residents in Society Hill, which are, I guess, quote unquote condos or townhomes rather, and they're receiving the notice. So it would work the same way. They wouldn't get the notice.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Item 3.3, City Ordinance
Can I,
20.
sorry, Council President,
Yes.
I meant to bring this up at the beginning. I saw your email. So the MUA is going to be sending us information about the information I requested?
Yes.
Or,
About the information you requested.
well, it's not even information. I really wanted to question them about it. Are they not inclined to attend?
No,
or
they didn't decline. I just saw him and he was pretty backed up. And so he said he'll send you information concerning your questions.
So the information is helpful, but really I think it requires them to respond to questions. It's and I don't think it's something that should be done just quietly behind through email exchanges. If I may just I'll just take a minute here just to literally explain. At the September 23rd, I believe it was, MUA Board of Commissioners meeting, the MUA board authorized several things, including.
Oh, Alonzo, could we go over that at the end because we are on this? I
I'll
don't
go
want to
over
throw
it,
nobody
yeah.
off.
It's fine. I'll go
Okay,
over
go
it,
ahead,
yeah.
Sean.
Thank you, Council President.
Okay, item 3.3, City Ordinance 20-103, an ordinance adopting amendments to the Morris Canal redevelopment plan regarding the creation of Berry Lane Park North, aka 417 Communaport Avenue. Questions or comments?
So,
Hi,
go ahead.
yeah, this is Matt from City Planning. Hello, Council. I am here to answer questions as well as representatives from Skyline Development, the petitioner for the amendment, Lou Mont, and professional planner Charles Height. There are 7 attachments in addition to the fact sheet and the whereas clauses here. If you'd like me to go over them or probably introduce those, I can. Otherwise, I can open up for questions. Sound like there were some?
Yeah, Matt, how big is this park they're talking about?
There is an element of the amendment. So to avail themselves of the zoning that would be adopted through this ordinance, they would have to be a designated developer and do an RDA. And one of the community benefits or performance standards tied to the zoning would be to create public open space adjacent to Berry Lane Park that is like 22,000 square feet, I believe. That is on.
That's 12 acres.
No, not 12 acres, 22,000 square feet. Or that's the recreation center, must be. 1 second.
I think it's 1 acre. The whole thing, I think, is 3.6 acres, the land, and the open space is 1 acre. And the
No, it's 20,000 square feet.
Okay.
Mhm.
What is 20,000 square feet? The entire.
No, I'm not sure what now I'm confused about the question. It sounded like the question was, how large is the park? There is a park or public open space that's tied to the zoning being proposed in this ordinance. That requires at least a 20,000 square foot area to be developed as a public park. And then there's additional community benefits or performance standards as well. I will just list those because there are a couple moving parts here. So there's widening of right-of-ways. There is inclusionary housing. There's a recreation center. There's preservation of an existing building. There's what's being described as the neighborhood commercial facility, which actually reserves space for small business, minority, women-owned business enterprises, and the public open space that we just spoke about.
My preference or request would be that we have a presentation by the developer, as we normally would with these cases or instances. Is that available, or?
There is representatives from the petitioner for the amendments. It's Lou Mont and Charles Height. I believe they are on the line.
They're on the line, so you can ask questions to them.
But normally we get a presentation on these sort of proposals. I mean, can we anticipate that for this, or are we not?
I've never done a presentation before, but there are representatives here on the line.
We've never done a presentation before. Is that what you just said, Matt?
I've never done one.
Now, the developer normally does a presentation to justify their amendments and their requests and so forth. So,
right. Are you guys on the line? Are you able to unmute?
Hi, Matt. This is Charles Height. I'm here.
And Lou Mont, I'm here as well.
okay. will you be conducting a presentation or informing us, City Council, of what it is you're proposing here, or are we just to inform ourselves through the readings of the documents? Is that?
Charles, why don't you go through a presentation?
Certainly,
Correct.
Councilman Navarro, I can definitely do that for you, and the other council people. So I can share my screen because we do have most of the information ready to just kind of give you a summary of what we've done with this amendment. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so just to familiarize yourself, we are in the Morris Canal redevelopment plan area, and we are essentially, this is the overall map with all the sub-districts within the Morris Canal redevelopment area. Currently, the property is in the I district. You may know this area south of the subject property in red here, because this is Berry Lane Park, also designated within the I district. So this is the overall parcel map. There are a few smaller parcels along Woodward Street, which is along the eastern side here, Communaport, which runs along the north, and obviously I mentioned Berry Lane Park to the south. So this is the map amendment being proposed. We are creating the Berry Lane North sub-district. We've identified that here in the legend, but it really just is to identify the whole property. It was the former Steel Tech industrial facility many years ago. Most of the buildings are removed. There does remain what we are referring to as a Steel Tech head house, which I'm calling out with my cursor here up in the northeastern portion. And then there are some other one-story industrial buildings that are located along Woodward Street, and then the rigid gantry steel crane section to the south of the property. You can see the baseball field to Berry Lane Park just to the south there. There's a relatively new industrial building for, I believe this is Ideal Plumbing, and this is Berry Lane, the street that these industrial properties have access off of. So again, Communaport Avenue to the north, Woodward Avenue to the west, and Berry Lane to the south. This is another angle, just so you can kind of get a feel for some of the other development in and around the area. Immediately close to the property, we have a church at the immediate intersection, followed by two residential low-density developments, and then obviously I mentioned the Steel Tech head house. These all front onto Communaport Avenue. But for the most part, the property is relatively unimproved and was a former industrial site at one point. With respect to the redevelopment plan, we did, obviously based on the map that I shared, we did think it was appropriate to create a new district, given that the industrial standards, which any developer could come along and propose an industrial use, really would not be applicable. To create a new sub-district would be appropriate. So I'm going to scroll down in the amendment that I have up here, which I believe it's located towards the south here. Hang on one. Oh, you know what it is? The reason why this isn't highlighted is because this is the whole amendment. I'm sorry, I was deceiving myself. So this is the Berry Lane Park North Zone. We do have all the standard requirements for any redeveloper to come in. This is a summary list of all of the public improvements or community benefits being requested for any future redevelopment of the property. So we have the right-of-way widening along Woodward. We have the inclusionary housing. We have the recreation center. We have the preservation of the Steel Tech head house, as I mentioned earlier. That's a part of the historic preservation that's going to be incorporated with the project. And I believe there's the public open space. So I think it would be helpful just to shift to the site plan and just go over some of the components of the site. So this is a little bit of a different orientation. You can see the massing here, the before and after. But part of the components here are a neighborhood commercial facility. Actually, this facility its concept is an enterprise incubator. We determined it would be appropriate to call it a neighborhood commercial facility because it operates a little bit differently from the city's definition of commercial enterprise. But this is located right along Communaport, and it will be, I believe, a minimum of 14,000 square feet. Part of this facility, half of the square footage will be dedicated to enterprise tenant spaces, which will be managed by the operator here for the site, and they will have to submit annual reports to the city in terms of how those enterprise units are being leased, and obviously the component here is reduced rents for those small businesses. This is the Seal Tech building being preserved. It's a 2-story. It's going to be, the idea for it is to be adaptively reused for a commercial use along Communaport and just retain the architectural presence of the building. The main residential component, you can see it here more in yellow in the massing, is set to the southwestern corner of the property. And I'll touch on a moment why this is an advantageous area of the property. But this is the main residential tower. You can see it in this leg. It's an L-shaped building. South of that is the community center or recreation center. We've worked with Councilman Robinson and the community to understand what are some of the interests for a center that would benefit the community the most. So we really did go through a lot of back and forth discussions. What we settled on was a basketball court and other multi-purpose rooms, studio spaces, classroom setting spaces that could potentially be outfit for vocational or AV tech training, things like that. Obviously, some could be used for dance studios, but we detailed some of the requirements for this facility in this location. So of the other land use aspects of this overall site are surface parking, parking to service the community center as well as neighborhood residents coming to Berry Lane Park. This is 40 spaces that will be preserved for the public. So you have the main an entrance off of Woodward, another entrance just north of that. This is the open space area. It's as mentioned a minimum of 22,000 square feet. This is an error in the calculation. It's 20,800 square feet, doesn't account for the plaza that's part of the open space, so it's larger than that calculation. So just in terms of the massing, and I don't do this too often to the board, so this is really my presentation in terms of detail that I provide for the planning board. But we did want to locate some separation between the residential development and some of the less intense uses, the church, which is at the immediate intersection, and the 2 smaller residential homes. So from a spatial planning, we figured creating the open space in this area and separating the residential development furthest from these lower intense uses would be a good thing. The other aspect, given how this site is situated and with respect to shadow, we did do a full shadow impact. There are 2 elements here. One, neighbors were concerned, or community residents were concerned about impacts of shadows to the park, and then 2, impacts on shadows to adjacent residential dwellings to the east. So you can see through the progression here in the morning that this is March on the first column, June on the second column, followed by September and December. In the morning, as the sun rises in the east, the shadows are cast west. And this is where you have the greatest impact to the park, which is really just on the fringe. So there's a walkway here that we're showing, and that's really the only shadows that are cast on the park any time of the day throughout the year. So that's the one aspect. The other aspect is shadows in the evening that are going to, when the sun sets in the west, that are going to be cast to the east, are on the adjacent residential developments to the east and north. So to the greatest extent possible, locating the tower in the southwest corner reduces the impacts going east in the evening. And you can see that really at the greatest length, you have the shadows coming into this area. But during the summer months, they're really limited. And this is at a 6 p.m. time when the shadows would be the greatest, just before the sun sets. That in the summer, you really only have a little bit of a marginal shadow cast on the adjacent properties to the east. So we did do that evaluation, and we thought that siting the building there would have some greater benefits and offset some impacts to the adjacent properties. I can go into some of the components of the benefits here. I don't know how much time you have.
You don't have much time.
Okay. So in short, this amendment has an inclusionary 5% set aside for this property. I've obviously detailed the recreation center, the neighborhood commercial facility with the incubator units, the preservation of the Steel Tech head house that will be adaptively reused, and the minimum, as Mr. Ward had mentioned, the minimum public open space, which is approximately 22,000 square feet. So all of these sections we expand upon in the amendment, but that's really a summary. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Anyone else have questions?
Sure. Can you tell us, is there anyone here to answer questions about the financial analysis that was done? That's included with the amendment, with the ordinance?
I can try to do my best.
Okay. So could you tell us what the basis of the rents were for the determination of the calculation of revenues? Rents for the market rate units as well as the affordable units?
Matt, you won't be able to answer that, will you?
No, I won't be able to.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
My request would be that we provide that information.
Okay.
What the rental costs were there.
Basis for the rents.
The calculation, what was the basis?
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Going back to like the Laurel and Saddlewood development as a comparison, there was a study done by Dresner Robin that kind of determined what the as of right value to the development was, right? So there was a determination that this is the as of right, and then this is kind of what the upzoning and everything was given. Was any similar study conducted for this particular project to determine kind of a baseline value to compare versus the upzoned value in that regard?
I could speak to that because we did prepare the fiscal impact for Laurel and Saddlewood. We did not do a complete upzone analysis for a comparison of an as of right development because currently the property is industrially zoned, and there's a number of potential uses. The rationale was more or less that any one of the industrial uses would likely generate more of an impact in terms of intensity on the adjacent residential uses. So it really was kind of like a less desirable use. And that's as far as we went. We didn't do our firm. I don't know if Mr. Mont has any other information on a market study that he prepared, but that's as far as we took it.
Okay.
The zoning for the industrial zone allows for 5 stories, and its setbacks are 10 feet front yard, 10 feet side yard and 30-foot rear yard. So it would be quite a large, it could be quite a large footprint if you look at it like that. But again, there's so many other moving parts that I'm not sure how you would necessarily get to a concept that would be something that you could compare easily.
Okay. All right. Someone else? Anybody else have questions? Go ahead.
Okay. The capitalization rate here, you set it at 5%. Can someone, I'm no expert on capitalization rates, so, but the last one that, again, with Laurel and Saddlewood as a basis of comparison was 4.75%. It's higher, better, or lower numbers better? What, can somebody explain that to me, preferably from the city side?
Well, I believe that there was some discussion. There's always some discussion about that when they're when NW is doing that. I do not know how they landed on 5% versus 4.7 in the other example you brought up.
NW worked on this,
Correct.
right? And then are they here online?
No.
Okay.
Can we
Rolando.
pose that question?
Yeah,
to them?
President, I'll get a backup on that. I'll ask them for a memo on that.
Please.
Yes.
I can't tell you. Part of their analysis, when we were discussing all the different components to the community benefits, was to understand how the overall value of community benefits was being allocated. And we went through that process to get a feel of how realistic all these different components were in terms of the breakdown of the overall value of the I guess 6 or so different components.
Okay, but we'll get from NW too, because that's what we need to hear from also. All right. Okay, Sean.
I'm sorry, I have more questions if I may.
How many more? They want to know how many more you have.
The property taxes, probably 3 more.
Okay.
The property taxes, I also asked for the same information with the last project that came to the council. Can we get an estimate on what the conventional taxes are here, what they were prior to this proposed development, what they are currently, I guess, and then what they would be ultimately with the changes, the zoning changes, and both for the
John, you
conventional
write
and
this
for the
down
city.
so you could send these?
I'm writing it down,
Okay.
Council President.
Both the city and
did that come from, because I'm not familiar with the other project you're referring to or the other ordinance that you're referring to? Was that
I don't recall. I either got it from
tax assessor's office?
It was either furnished by NW Financial or it was furnished by no, it was NW Financial furnished that.
Okay, thank you.
That's not currently included.
Okay.
Could you provide us a summary of the community outreach, and in particular a specific kind of timetable? And if I may, I'm just going to share my screen and not playing a comparison game here, but this is the most recent example. So fortunately, having at my disposal. So let me pull this up. Let me see if I can find it here. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. So this is, can everyone see this?
Not yet.
No, not yet. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So this was just what the last developer provided for the Laurel and Saddlewood development. Even though I didn't support that initiative, I will suggest that the developer did a good job of providing information and being complete in providing his information. And the summary of the timetable here, where he outlined kind of all of the outreach and the work that was done there, I'd be interested in seeing that same information here. And if you could break it down as in similar detail, I'm happy to share this if folks need to have that. I'll send it out to
You can
to-
send it to me, Councilman,
Send it
and
to
I'll
Matt.
forward it to them.
I'll send it to Matt then.
And
Okay.
you were actually at the first community meeting, I think, where this was
Right.
presented. I think you and Jermaine had attended a Morris Canal meeting where this was first
Yeah.
presented in March, right before everything shut down.
I know, I did ask for that and
Okay.
I asked for the minutes
Okay.
from that, but they weren't available, the recording from it.
Mhm.
And are there recordings from those meetings, Matt? That meeting that I was at that you,
That one in March? I
Yeah.
don't know. That was hosted by Morris Canal. I don't know
Okay,
if there was a recording of that one.
all right. Okay,
okay,
Sean.
that will conclude my, I'll send these out in writing as well as a follow-up.
Thank you, Councilman Laura.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Alrighty.
Thank you all.
Next item is 3.4 City Ordinance 20-104, an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City, adopting amendments to numerous
Okay, we're
redevelopment
finished.
plans regarding the removal of expiration dates.
So this is another one from City Planning. I can share my screen if you wish. Let me,
Mhm.
okay, let me see if I can. All right. So this is an ordinance to remove expiration dates from 35 redevelopment plans. This ordinance may sound similar to a couple of the council members. A similar ordinance was brought to the council in 2019, and an action was not taken. An ordinance is now back before you to stress the importance of this, and that we should, as a city, consider removing these expiration dates for reasons that we can discuss tonight. Diana Jeffrey, Director of JCRA, is also on the line to answer questions. This has also been discussed with Corporation Council, the need for this, and I'll just scroll through. So there are 35 redevelopment plans that would be amended as part of this ordinance, striking the language, and there's 15 pages here, but I believe the ordinance language that you would need to refer to is about 11 pages. It's titled Proposed Amendments to Numerous Redevelopment Plans Regarding Removal Expiration Dates. Here's the date, a preamble, a list of the 35 redevelopment plans. These are keyed 1 through 35. There's the number there, the section, and the elimination of that language. If you keep scrolling through, there's a map keyed to those numbers as well, should you wish to see the location of those. There is a mix of redevelopment plans throughout the city. Excuse me if Ward D is cut off, but there was none above that. I was just trying to get this map as big as possible.
Mhm.
And also another table that was requested at Planning Board for your consideration was also another table of these redevelopment plans, 1 through 35, again keyed in the same order. It shows the ward. Sometimes they're split. It shows the duration of those plans. It shows the month and year when they were originally adopted. In red, those are ones that have expired. And then you can see that there's a list of ones coming up. And there's also a lack of clarity on whether or not the last amendment pushes out that expiration, and if these columns were also provided for you, showing that 2 out of all of these 35 would still be expired based on the last amendment date. I believe Diana did want to speak.
Okay,
Diane, are you there?
I am.
okay.
So thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you for the chance to address this issue. It's very important to the JCRA and to the city. Just to begin, I want to point out that the statute, the Redevelopment and Housing Law, which governs redevelopment plans, doesn't require that there be an expiration date. And from our research, it appears that those were put in some 40 to 50 years ago. We think to give the council at that time, we're talking the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, a comfort level in creating these redevelopment areas. The redevelopment area, as you know, is created by a blight study initially, which says there is significant properties within the redevelopment area that are blighted, that are in need of redevelopment. And that is a judicial decision that is made by the planning board and the council. It is resolved when the buildings are either rehabbed or new construction remediates the blight, and they get a certificate of occupancy from the city and a certificate of completion by the redevelopment agency, and then it is considered finished. So the expiration dates are somewhat artificial. And in this case, what they're doing is the redevelopment agency gets its powers exclusively from the Redevelopment and Housing Law, which says that the agency may only act within a redevelopment area. So if we collectively allow these redevelopment plans to expire, the agency can no longer acquire and convey property. It can no longer enter into redevelopment agreements and enforce the construction timelines. It can no longer acquire abandoned or blighted properties by condemnation. And that is a problem for us, especially in some of these redevelopment areas like Ocean Bayview, where we own property. We have redevelopment agreements with developers who haven't yet begun construction. We did encounter one issue with one of the redevelopment plans where the developer was held in default by the agency for failure to adhere to its timelines. They cured their default and they went for site plan approval and were told that the redevelopment plan no longer exists and they were not allowed, they could not get site plan approval. So it's causing a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos. I believe that it will ultimately result in litigation at some point. And I cannot see any reason why it would benefit the city to have these redevelopment plans expire according to an expiration date. And then the problems are, I think, outweigh the benefit of having it expire. For example, it's interfering with existing contract rights. It stymies development. It may discourage lenders from investing in projects in redevelopment areas. And council can always change the underlying zoning in the plan. That's your prerogative. And you can always alter existing agreements either through the JCRA's Board of Commissioners or through your own body. So I would strongly urge you to accept these changes and remove the expiration dates and allow redevelopment to continue in those areas.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, this is Councilperson Solomon. This is less a question than a comment, and I'm just going to say respectfully to the director, I couldn't disagree more with her presentation and the rationale for this. Let me just start by saying something very clear. There's nothing stopping this council, planning, JCRA from working to remove expiration dates from individual plans as they see fit, right? The director mentioned a redevelopment plan that's not in Ward E. If the council person in that ward believes that the expiration date should be removed, the plan is perfect for that ward, there's nothing that would stop planning this council from doing that. But by doing a blanket elimination of all the expiration dates, it is a massive gift to a number of developers who plans were written with extraordinarily generous terms. And we can look at that, just in the two redevelopment plans we've considered, Laurel Saddlewood and then the one with Councilman Robinson. Before, whether you're for or against it, there are millions and millions of dollars of community givebacks to Jersey City that are contemplated in those plans. But when the plans were written 30, 40, 50 years ago, there weren't community givebacks contemplated because we were desperate for development. So the expiration date, I think, appropriately says this was a plan that was right 40 years ago. 40 years into the future, maybe we want to establish a different plan. The director says the council always has the prerogative to change the underlying zoning. That's true, but there's also extraordinarily big legal hoops when we downzone and when we add requirements, so particularly with affordable housing. We've talked about the difficulty as a council of adding an affordable housing requirement to an existing plan without granting a further upzone. And I'll give you a specific example for my ward, which I talked to the director about back in February. There is a 40-year-old plan in the village. There is a surface parking lot that's been sitting there. The developers owned it for the last 30 years, chose not to develop on it for those 30 years, right? Could have developed on it for 30 years and now wants to develop it. And I said, look, that plan was written 30, 40 years ago. Great if you want to develop it, but there should be some community givebacks as part of this, in particular affordable housing on that land. And so I'm not in favor of eliminating the expiration date on that plan and on other plans in downtown. Like I said, if there's a plan where the director says development should move forward and the council person in that ward agrees and this whole council as a body agrees, great. There's nothing that's stopping us from doing it. But when we do a blanket removal of expiration dates, we're simply setting zoning in that was written 40 years ago, and we know how hard it is to change that zoning. So if we want to look at this amendment and council people want to look at the development plans in their ward and say these 10 expiration dates should be removed, great. But I do not support the removal of expiration dates in the wardee plans. And if it does move forward, we're going to put out information about just how much some of these developers are going to gain from having those expiration dates removed.
Well, so all I would say is I would like Corporation Counsel to opine on the litigation risks you take when a developer has invested in property in those redevelopment areas based on the redevelopment plan, and now the expiration date is going to retire what they thought they were entitled to. That is also something to consider. That's not for me to say, that's for Corporation Counsel to say.
Corporation Counsel, what do you have to say?
Corporation Counsel around?
I'll go ahead and answer. The director is correct. Depending on how the council votes on this, the extension or not extension or the termination of the expiration dates, there will be developers who were working to develop a piece of property in accordance with the redevelopment plan, expires during the course of their efforts, and then can't develop in accordance with the zoning provided in the plan. I would anticipate there would be litigation over that expiration and what becomes of the zoning contained in the plan after the expiration date.
So if I understand that correctly, then you're saying that if that we would run the risk of potentially litigation if somebody was in the process of developing and then the plan expired and they lost their zoning rights within that redevelopment plan because of the expiration. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay. So then what would be if they're designated as a redeveloper and they've got a redevelopment agreement under the kind of the zoning contemplated within the redevelopment plan prior to its expiration, would their rights be protected as a developer having been designated and having a formal redevelopment agreement in place?
Can I just add something that we've had as an issue? So part of this confusion is that every single one of these redevelopment plans does not say what happens after it expires, right? And so other towns that we've been able to look at where this has been a practice, it says when the plan expires, the original zoning is what we go back to, or the zoning in the plan is the zone plan that becomes the zoning. Our zoning says nothing, and a very clear reading of the law. And your right as a property owner, whether or not you believe you've been vested or not vested or whatever, is that now there is no zoning, right? So we have to accept the fact that even though expiration dates don't have to be put into redevelopment plans, because we are putting them in our redevelopment plans, we have to observe them and abide by them. So if we're acknowledging that now this plan is expired, whoever is that person, and whether or not it's Peter Mako or Joe Jim who owns a two-family house, that person has a right by law, as long as that town has established zoning, to know what their property is zoned for. And in the instance, you cannot tell somebody what that property is zoned for. It is the sky's the limit. And this is not one of those chicken sky is falling stories. It is a very clear example of what has happened in the Heights. In the Heights, within the R2 zone, there was a use that had no standards. That went to an appeal from the zoning board, and the zoning board said very clearly, you cannot say that the height for this use is X, Y, and Z. There is no clear height within that zoning, and the letter of the law is black and white. And so when the letter of the law is black and white, and now we have a plan that has expired, the only other thing you can do is opine, right? And the opining here is based on the fact that there's you can't really opine. How's that? It's not up to Nick Strasser. It's not up to Peter Baker to decide zoning. It's up to the city council to decide zoning. So you have to make an action. That is what we're saying. The saying is not necessarily that you need to remove the redevelopment plan expiration date so we can, continue to give developers rights. It's so that there is protection of zoning, period. Because then what anybody can do is say that not only my property rights probably been, taken away from me because there is no zoning and now you won't let me proceed with an application. They can also sue and say, I want to build 20 stories, and there's literally not a single thing in this zone precluding me from doing that.
Yeah, and to that I'd add, Tanya's absolutely right. What removing the expiration dates does is it creates certainty and predictability. And Councilman Navarro, I think I could give you an example that using the example given by Councilman Solomon, that in his ward, there's a redevelopment plan where there's one developer who was in default of his redevelopment agreement. He cured his default. We updated the timelines. He paid his outstanding fees. But then once he went to get site plan approval, the planning board said there's no redevelopment plan anymore, so we can't grant your site plan approval. So now he's stuck in the no man's land that Tanya just described. If you wanted to go back and look at some of these redevelopment plans and create more community benefits, and that you as a body can do that, but the way to get there is not to keep these expiration dates, which will create confusion and chaos and litigation. It's to go back and take a look at the redevelopment plans and make law amendments to them to create the community benefits and zoning that you want.
So let me offer a proposal then, and let me just say first that I spoke with everybody here, both Director of Planning and Director of JCRA, about February, and I've gotten no follow-up since then about this plan, only to see this on the agenda right before Thanksgiving. So there are months where we could have been talking about how to address it, and we weren't, right? And I made it clear what my position was, and there was no follow-up. So let me make a proposal. I will put on this council agenda a resolution referring to the planning board amendments for the development plans in Ward E, right? The planning board has 45 days to consider them. We as a council can put in what we think are the appropriate potential zoning changes that would go for the expired plans. Planning board would have 45 days to consider it, review it, and then kick it back to city council, which we would then have the ability to amend, right? If the concern here is that we don't know what the underlying zoning is and that creates a legal jeopardy, right? First of all, we've known that for every plan that's coming up to be expired. We've had years to address it. But fine, let's address it now instead of just giving a blanket removal of the expiration dates, which again is going to be to the benefit of folks who are looking to develop and have pretty generous zoning that was granted 30 and 40 years again without the community benefits that the city needs. I'm very open to that type of solution to have us redo the zoning. I would also say, though, that when I've talked to city planning in the past about that type, they've told me that they don't have the staff and resources to do it. But I don't think the right answer is for us to just sort of throw our hands up and just let things go as they've gone. This is one of our few points of leverage in the development process to get community benefits, and I don't think we should be removing it. So I will be happy to draft those resolutions and put them on the agenda for December.
We put these proposals 2 years ago, so we could have been dealing with this now for 2 years, rewriting the plan. And yes, you reached out to me and JCRA, and I have said the exact same thing every single time. So we could have, when this was put onto the city council 2 years ago, this is the third time, we could have been dealing with this.
Director, we are waiting for the rezoning up north of the Holland Tunnel that we've been talking about for 2 years. I mean,
Okay,
We have
let me-
scheduled a meeting upon your request. That is, we
Okay,
believe it's going to be
alright.
scheduled
Do any
December 15th
Do any other council person have something to say?
for that.
I want to hear from the rest.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jermaine.
How many plans do we have, and why are some plans left out?
Yeah, 35 plans, they said. That's on this.
That's on this, but it's a.
Yeah,
I know
the pickups
more
are
that's-
the pickups are mostly from the plans that are expiring sooner rather than later. And the previous effort that was tabled and not acted upon included them all. It was thought that perhaps there would be more willingness to focus the conversation with a smaller number.
I mean, if it's good for one, wouldn't it be good for all?
That's what
Why
was
would
that's
some
what
be-
was that's what was recommended by the planning board in 2019 to council. Correct.
To do all.
That was the recommendation in 2019.
Someone else?
So I think to the Councilman Solomon's point, if an amendment, if a plan has no community benefits and it's expiring, we have leverage as a result in terms of trying to being able to rezone that appropriately and being able to get the kind of benefits. Obviously, I'm going to be on the side of affordable housing as I have been throughout this the whole time. And so in other cases, maybe that's not the case. Maybe there is substantial community benefits. And so the kind of, again, the one size fits all, perhaps, and the thing that Councilman Solomon is advocating as well, from each council person can kind of decide for themselves. I personally think none of it should be done, but at this point, without having examined them more closely, frankly. But that being said, my question that I wanted to raise is, again, my original question, which didn't get answered, which is, do those people have certain rights protected? I think the Director Jeffrey said that there's a specific example right now with a developer who has a redevelopment agreement and so forth in place, went for site plan approval, et cetera, and then was rejected because I would like to see the specifics of that cited example and just would like the information about that so as to be able to substantiate that particular argument. The second thing that I wanted to just ask is, in terms of what the Director of Planning spoke to, is what does the zoning revert to, and suggesting that in other cases that in other municipalities that it reverts to the old zoning and that it's explicitly written. And so in this case, it's not doing that. That we have nothing. And so in the space of emptiness or zero, we have to opine on it and so forth and whatnot, if I understand that correctly. So rather than just kind of give a blanket opening of the lifting of the expiration dates, why not simply do what those other municipalities do, which is revert it back to the old zoning, and put that certainty back in place as well, as was already kind of suggested.
I'll just respond by bringing back up this table. So in that case, it's reverting back to 1958 zoning, 1955 zoning, 1974 zoning. It's
why can't you refer back to the last amendment?
Right, and this is maybe not the best list to go off of, but if we were talking about perhaps if the list included, say, Newport or some other waterfront development, waterfront redevelopment area, we could be talking about a list of uses that is completely incongruous with the existing and surrounding land uses. So that doesn't seem to be necessarily a good thing to do. It just seems very clear that that would not be an outcome that we would essentially want in some areas. I haven't done a review of each and every last one of the redevelopment areas on this list to see if something like that would result. But that doesn't seem, and in some cases, it might be an upzone. To be honest, it might be an upzone.
What,
I
Matt,
would like
when you
to
say
make,
an upzone, what do you mean the upzone? That the previous redevelopment plan was higher and we like
The
shrunk it?
yes, that the old zoning could have been more. I don't know.
I mean,
So
it could be,
we
but it's
find
not
that
likely,
out.
right? Because we've constantly said in these meetings that you can't take away people's density and height, and you can't down zone on folks. So it's possible, but it's not likely, right? So I'm certainly we can review those things and make determinations on a case by case basis too. I would argue then, right? So if that was the case in terms of the expiration.
And then also, I mean, they could. I don't know. I think that it will undoubtedly result in a lawsuit. Given the worst example or the worst situation, they would be stuck with the zoning that's not in lock and step with the existing uses that have been established around them. It would be a clear zoning board application, and I don't know what would happen from there. I think that it makes sense. I think that, as stated, it seems as though giving us the ability to take a look at these systematically would be probably the best approach, and to remove the uncertainty of the expiration dates is a lifeline that we kind of need to extend ourselves.
to Matt's point, what I would like to make a suggestion. What I'm hearing is that there is a hope that the removal of the expiration date might provide an opportunity to increase the community benefits in certain redevelopment areas. And I would recommend, because I believe the city is facing litigation, at least from one person, that the law department provide a legal opinion on whether or not the city could, in the absence of an expiration, if there's an expiration date in the redevelopment plan, could the city go back and remove that expiration date and then retool the zoning to provide for community benefits? How would that impact a developer who already has a redevelopment agreement? And could that even be possible to do that through amendments to the redevelopment plan by fiat? In other words, for a redeveloper who already has an RDA, the law department should weigh in on whether or not the zoning could be changed to include community benefits, and then that developer, could they be compelled to then have to provide those community benefits when they already have a redevelopment agreement in place? Does that make sense? Because I think there is a significant legal risk there.
Law department.
Corporation counsel?
Yeah, the director is
Not right now. I'm not saying do it now on the record unless you already know the answer, but before the city goes down that road, you might want to think about that.
Is there anybody else have questions? Any other council? Because this is a concern here, a serious concern. Because I know it seems like the planning board hands is tied. They can't move forward with certain issues. And the council has a concern because we want to make sure we're not giving away anything. You know, we don't want to lose our leverage in a sense. So
Right.
this is something that's very, very concerning.
If I can just make one final point and leave it at that. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with going, again, plan by plan. If there's a specific developer and a specific case for a specific development plan that we think as a governing body needs to move forward. But I would also, request two things. One is a list of all signed RDAs in these plans in my ward of undeveloped property, and whether they're in compliance or not in compliance. And then I will ask the law department a slightly different question and frame it slightly differently, which is, to what extent, once a redevelopment plan is expired, the city can rewrite that plan with significantly stronger community benefits in it, and would, yes, include existing folks with RDAs, but also land that might not have an existing RDA. Because all I want is to make sure that we're maximizing the public's interest, and the expiration dates, I think, could potentially do that for us. And just, be frank, and you hopefully heard in my voice, I mean, I was just frustrated to see this on the agenda after, we had talked in February, and then there was nothing, communication since then.
Well, Councilman, so let me make sure I understand. You want the RDAs of any project in any redevelopment area in your ward, and then you also want
that have an expiration date, that are being proposed to have the expiration date removed.
Oh, okay. So you want, yeah, I think we gave that to you, but I'll put it together again.
Sure.
And is there anything else you want to know about the projects, or do you just want the redevelopment agreements?
I mean, just the list of RDAs is fine.
Okay.
Council President, I have one last comment and question.
Sure.
So there is, I believe, one recent example of these expiring redevelopment plans that would like to know from both planning's perspective as well as JCRA and maybe law, if they were involved in it as well, was the recent Laurel and Saddlewood redevelopment plan. So prior to that, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was another redevelopment plan in place that expired. I can't remember the name of the plan at this point.
South Henderson.
What was it called?
Henderson Street South.
Henderson Street. So that expired. The decision there was made not to remove the expiration date and to move forward from there, but instead to do a whole study, determine it's an area in need of redevelopment, and then come through up with creating a new redevelopment plan.
That's not necessarily true, actually.
Okay.
There was an ordinance passed specifically removing the expiration date prior to Laurel Saddlewood. The study being done to be any of that ordinance being considered by council, it was done several years ago, I think in maybe 2015 or 16. I'd have to look it up.
Okay. Well, if you could provide that, but then ultimately you created a new one. So, so if you remove the existing redevelopment plan, I mean, you remove the expiration date and then you created a new one on top of it. Is that what happened?
Yeah, no, those homes have certificate of completion, so the designation was no longer there. So that's a little bit of a tricky one. When a redevelopment plan is pretty much built out, developer or builder gets a certificate of completion. So when we did the study, we had to re-blight the whole thing.
Okay. So, but I don't know. Well, why not just work from the Henderson Street redevelopment plan if there was an expiration date that was already lifted from it, as opposed to creating a new redevelopment plan?
Because it was ameliorated. Because the project was considered ameliorated because they redeveloped the entirety of that block. So a whole new study had to take a look at the existing conditions since the redevelopment actions had occurred.
So it was like, if I understand you correctly, it was kind of determined by saying it's ameliorated that the goals of that redevelopment plan were achieved.
Yeah.
Correct. That's what's on site now. That's what the original Henderson Street South resulted in.
Okay. Understood.
Okay. All right then.
But it's been, X number of decades since then, and a new study was conducted.
Okay. All right. So you have to give Councilman Solomon some information. Any other council want anything while we're on this topic? If not, we're going to move on.
I just did more of a comment because I know this is challenging for everybody. I mean, my concern with going back to original zoning on some of these, at least for projects from my ward, is at least two of the redevelopment plans. If you go back to original zoning, it's zoned for industrial or industrial light auto. So that's another complication reverting back to that. And I mean, it seems like the answer is more of a ward by ward basis. I share some of Councilman Solomon's concerns. I mean, Tanya and Matt, we've talked many times about some of the issues I have with redevelopment plans in my ward, but those, I mean, we're working on them now to fix it. So I guess I don't really, unfortunately, have a suggestion here, but I just wanted to get that other concern on the record. It's just reverting back to that. If there's a way through some of this, I think that's great. But I also do share some of the same concerns about them. Just a blanket, no expiration.
Yeah, we understand the council's, I think a lot of members on council hold the position that redevelopment is an overused tool. It is a flexible tool, and it's more difficult to change zoning wholesale in a regular zone district. There's different notice provisions, there's different statutory requirements. So there's, in looking at and studying at and being flexible and considering, like even to do a redevelop or a regular zone district change, I think that, well, first of all, there's notice provisions that you would need to do. There's notice requirements you'd have to send for the MLUL, or the Municipal Land Use Law. And I don't even know how, if you guys came with us with a zone change to a regular zone district, how you would accomplish some of those things. I think you would have to then consult with us, take time with us to before the clock started on necessarily that 45 day report back to the governing body. So I think that in many ways the redevelopment is a flexible tool that regarding the administration of land use that the council people should be more comfortable with, and what we can do to make sure that we extend that, we should take that into strong consideration when we look at this ordinance.
Okay. All right. Okay, Matt. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yep.
So, okay, Sean, move on to the next one.
Okay. So the next item is item 3.5, City Ordinance 20-105, an ordinance amending Chapter 175, Food Handling Establishments, Article 3, Food Establishments, and Chapter 160, Fees and Charges, Section P, Chapter 175, Food Handling Establishments, to allow farmers markets to operate year-round. Any questions or comments?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. And the last item, we had to refresh our agenda, Council President. There was one stuck in the queue regarding the item 3.6, which you see here, Ordinance 20-106. It's an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 9, Parking for the Disabled of the Jersey City Code, designating reserved parking space at various locations throughout the city.
I didn't get that one.
Yeah, this one was stuck in the queue, and we had to refresh the agenda to have it appear, and it's appearing as a late item because it was stuck in the queue. It was waiting, but from what I understand, it was awaiting Brian Platt's signature, and I think, John, you can speak a little bit on it.
Council President, this one was in the queue ready to go. Unfortunately, it was routed to Brian Platt's signature and not mine, so it was kind of in limbo, so to speak. We have corrected that, so it won't happen again, but that's just kind of where we're at with this one.
Okay.
Any questions or comments on this ordinance? Okay, hearing none.
Offline. Sorry, as I say, Council President, I can just reach out about one specific concern, and then we can do it offline. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Go ahead. He'll speak to me offline.
Oh, okay. I apologize for that. All right. Moving on to our next item, which is item 4.1. Going on to the second reading ordinances, item 4.1, City Ordinance 20-098. It's an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, Stopping, Section 332-22, no parking anytime on 16th Street. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Item 4.2, City Ordinance 20-099, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 9, Parking for the Disabled, Sections 332-29, Disabled Parking Manual, and Section 332-68, Parking for the Disabled of the Jersey City Code, designating, amending, and/or repealing a reserved parking space for the disabled at various locations throughout the city. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Last second reading ordinance, item 4.3, City Ordinance 20-100, an ordinance of the City of Jersey City amending Chapter 260 rent control. Number 1, imposing a rent increase freeze on units subject to municipal regulation, excluding owner-occupied homes with 2 to 4 units of housing. And number 2, prohibiting any collection of a penalty for late payment of rent as a result of the current public health emergency declared by the governor. Any questions or comments? Okay. Hearing none. Moving on. Right now, we only have one public speaker. Shouldn't say that too loud. Just a joke. Any questions on items 6.1 through 6.20? Hearing none, there are no Office of Communications. Any questions on items 8.1 through 8.4? We'll have our claims and addendum list up soon, as soon as we receive it from Accounts and Control. And on to our resolutions. Okay. Item 10.1, Resolution 20-794, a resolution of the City of Jersey City authorizing the circulation of a preliminary official statement and final official statement in connection with the sale of certain special emergency notes of the city and approving a continuing disclosure undertaking with respect to said notes and authorizing and/or ratifying other actions in connection therewith. Item 10.2, Resolution 20-795 is a resolution authorizing the award of a competitively bid contract to NW Financial Group LLC to provide financial advisory services. Item 10.3, City Ordinance 20-796, a resolution authorizing the settlement of assessment appeals filed before the Tax Court of New Jersey on various properties. Item 10.4, Resolution 20-797, resolution to cancel a portion of 2018 and 2019 real estate taxes on Block 11305, Lot 35 by applying the Freeze Act, NJSA 54:51A-8. Item 10.5, Resolution 20-798, resolution granting veteran exemptions for civil property taxation pursuant to NJSA 54:4-3.30. Item 10.6, Resolution 20-799, resolution authorizing the business administrator to execute a discharge of mortgage for 187 Pearsall Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey, aka Block 1373, Lot 16. Item 10.7, Resolution 20-800, a resolution authorizing the business administrator to execute a discharge of mortgage affecting real property located at 22 Randolph Avenue, Jersey City, New Jersey 07305. Item 10.8, Resolution 20-801 is a resolution recognizing Rosalie Daniels in the honor of her 100th birthday. Item 10.9, Resolution 20-802 is a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to accept 4 vehicles from the Jersey City Municipal Utilities Authority. Item 10.10, Resolution 20-803 is a resolution authorizing the execution of a license agreement with the Jersey City Community Garden, Inc. to allow for the establishment of a temporary bee colony in the community garden located at 174-176 Brunswick Street, Block 09905, lots 8 and 9. Item 10.11, Resolution 20-084 is a resolution, number one, introducing and approving the 2021 budget of the Jackson Hill Main Street Special Improvement District, and number two, directing the city clerk to publicly advertise the budget and schedule a public hearing, and number three, directing the tax assessor to prepare an assessment roll of properties within the district based upon the budget. Item 10.12, Resolution 20-805 is a resolution authorizing the acceptance and execution of a grant agreement between the City of Jersey City and the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs for funding under the Community Service Block Grant for CARES Act funding. Item 10.13, Resolution 20-806 is a resolution authorizing the application and acceptance of grant funds from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security Fiscal Year 2020 Port Security Grant Program.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yep.
What is ballistic gear? Is there somebody from?
Someone on?
I believe Chris Kearns might be on. Chris, are you there?
Are you there?
My apologies. Sorry, I was on mute.
So Chris, for the resolution accepting a grant, Councilman Lavarro has a question referring to a specific terminology.
Yes, Councilman, I heard you say what is a ballistic gear, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm reaching out right now for an answer on that. I will get it to you by the end of this meeting, but I just want to make sure I have the proper answer before I give you any definitive answer.
Sure, that's fine.
All right.
Thank you.
My apologies on the mute issue.
No problem. Thanks. I'm all set. That's all. The only question I had.
Okay, item 10.14, Resolution 20-807 is a resolution authorizing the Department of Recreation to apply and accept funds from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs under the fiscal year 2021 Recreational Opportunities for Individuals with Disabilities Grant Program. Item 10.15, Resolution 20-808 is a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City Office of Sustainability to apply and accept the award from the 2020-2021 Sustainable Jersey Grant for the Municipal Fleet Transition Plan. Item 10.16, Resolution 20-
Sorry, can I ask, I'm sorry, my apologies.
Sure.
John, the vehicle inventory management system, I'm not sure if I'm using the right terminology at this point anymore, but do you have a status on that? Can you provide on that? It doesn't have to be tonight. It could be via email as well.
I'll have Director Kearse reach out. I know that they were in the middle of the implementation, but I'm not sure where they are currently. I know one of the first steps was to put the fuel rings on, which I believe is near completion. But I know you're referring to the actual fleet management, so I'll make sure I get an answer on that.
Great.
Okay, item 10.16, Resolution 20-809, a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to apply and accept the fiscal year 2021 Safe and Secure Communities Grant from the New Jersey Department of Law and Public Safety, Office of the Attorney General.
Can I ask a question on that? Actually, it's a general question to John Metro. So we have this number of grants that require minimum staffing levels for both police and fire. Could you just, not an urgency to it, but if you could just get me identifying which grants those are?
Yeah, absolutely. I know off the top of my head, it's the SAFER grant and the police hiring grant, but I'll definitely get you a full list of that.
Great, appreciate it.
Item 10.17, Resolution 20-810, a resolution ratifying an emergency contract award to Lou Company, Family Medical and Surgical Company for the purchase and delivery of personal protection equipment. due to the coronavirus for the Department of Public Safety, Officer of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Item 10.18, Resolution 20-811, resolution ratifying the emergency contract of Gold Type Business Machines, Inc. for the purchase and delivery of personal protection equipment due to the coronavirus for the Department of Public Safety, Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Item 10.19, Resolution 20-812 is a resolution ratifying the emergency contract award to Gold Type Business Machine for the purchase and delivery of personal protection equipment due to the coronavirus for the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, funded through the fiscal year 19 Urban Area Security Initiative Grant. Item 10.20, Resolution 20-813 is a resolution authorizing a memorandum of an agreement between Montclair University and the City of Jersey City Community Solutions for allowing internships, of healthcare students enrolled in graduate programs at the Jersey City Municipal Court via Jersey City Community Solutions.
Can I go back one? My apologies.
Yep.
Going back to 10.19, the face mask there, we're using grant money, the UASI grant money for that purpose, as opposed to COVID CARES Act money or whatever. Is that the best? Well, I'm wondering, shouldn't we be using COVID money or the CARES Act money rather than using grant money that could be used for other purposes, I would assume?
Is Director Pierce here or no?
I'm not sure. I know Director Pierce had a death in his family. I'm not sure if he's attending today.
So, long story short, we can use either source of funding for these face masks, and I think there's a real interest in us creating a stockpile ahead of 12/31/2020, as we aren't certain if there will be additional fundings effective January 1st.
I understand we could use both.
But could Director Kearse had a death in his family, so he's not here. So he's the one that probably really would have to answer why are we using grant instead of CARES Act money. I understand that. So
I think John, John at the finance department, it's a determination of what source of funding we're using, right? So I mean, I think unless we're running out of CARES Act money, we should be going to the CARES Act pot first and using these other sources for other purposes that could be used for public safety, other public safety needs and so forth, right? So.
Are we running out? If we running out?
No, I agree with you, Councilman. I'm not sure what the specific reason for them to put the funds through this one, but I'll definitely get you an answer.
Okay, appreciate it. That's it. That's all I have.
10.21, Resolution 20-814 is a resolution authorizing the Department of Health and Human Services to accept grant funds from the State of New Jersey Department of Health, Office of Local Public Health for childhood lead prevention. 10.22, Resolution 20-815 is a resolution authorizing the award of an open-end contract to Nuesco Nelson Westberg of New Jersey to provide moving services for the Department of Public Works Administrative Services. Item 10.23, Resolution 20-816. It's a resolution authorizing an award of a contract to WB Mason Company for the purchase and delivery of personal protection equipment due to the coronavirus for the Department of Finance, Division of Management and Budget through the Educational Service Commission of New Jersey, formerly Middlesex Regional Educational Service Commission. Item 10.24, Resolution 20-817. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Millennium Communication Group for the purchase and delivery of Cisco switches for Project City Hall and Holloway building under state contract for the Department of Administration, Division of Information Technology. Item 10.25, Resolution 20-818. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Millennium Communications Group for surveillance cameras upgrades at the Juvenile Center, 139 Cater Avenue, under the interlocal purchasing system for the Department of Public Safety Division of Police. Item 10.26, Resolution 20-819 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Millennium Communications Group for surveillance cameras upgrades at East District Police Building, 207 7th Street, under the interlocal purchasing system for the Department of Public Safety Division of Police. Item 10.27, Resolution 20-820 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Millennium Communications Group for surveillance camera upgrades at North District Police Building, 282 Central Avenue, under the interlocal purchasing system for Department of Public Safety Division of Police. Item
Question on all of these camera contracts. John, can you provide? I'm sorry, just let me pull this up.
Yeah, Councilman, your aide had reached out to me for a report on that particular account. I know offhand that there's approximately $199,000 left in the account, but I'm giving you a full itemized detail on that.
Great, appreciate it. Thanks.
Item 10.28, Resolution 20-821 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Millennium Communications Group for surveillance camera upgrades at the South District Building, 191 Bergen Avenue, under the interlocal purchasing system for the Department of Public Safety Division of Police. Item 10.29, Resolution 20-822 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Software House International for the purchase of a functional CAD/RMS system, including programming, training, and installation under the New Jersey State contract for the Department of Public Safety Division of Fire and Police. Item 10.30, Resolution 20-823 is a resolution authorizing the use of competitive contracting to award a concession contract to manage an entrepreneurship training program at 347-349 and 351-355 Martin Luther King Drive.
Can someone just speak to this initiative and in particular the coordination with Jackson Hill SID around that? We had a resolution in the past. This is all the container villages stuff, right? So I recall that we had some sort of resolution where we included some language ensuring that there was some sort of cooperation or requiring some sort of cooperation with Jackson Hill.
Our primary partner at this point on this project is the JCEDC, but we do go through Jackson Hill just to confirm that the vendors are in line with the type of vendors that Jackson Hill is SID is looking for, and just so informal conversations about how things are going on site.
Okay, I would refer back to that resolution, which the council approved and amended. And I'd have to pull it up, and if my staff is out there listening, we should look to see if we can pull that down and find that. I think it's more than, I think that resolution called for more than just kind of notification of these matters. It was supposed to be working in cooperation with them as it pertained to this container village, as I recall. And the Ward of Councilman might have a better recollection of that, or any of the other members of the council.
No, I don't. We have to look at the ordinance again. I don't remember. I know they was partnered with each other, but I don't know exactly the complete wording.
Yeah.
Okay. We look at it.
Thanks.
Item 10.31, Resolution 20-824 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Ascape Landscape Construction Corp. for the maintenance of irrigation systems at numerous city-owned facilities for the Department of Public Works Division of Park Maintenance. Item 10.32, Resolution 20-825 is a resolution ratifying the award awarding an emergency contract award to Dahl Title Distribution for the purchase and delivery of various tiles for the City Hall basement due to COVID-19 for the Department of Public Works. Item 10.33, Resolution 20-826, is a resolution ratifying the award of an emergency contract to Audio Visual Associates for the purchase and delivery of various audio equipment for the City Hall basement project due to the COVID-19 pandemic for the Department of Public Works. Item 10.34, resolution ratifying the award of an emergency resolution 20-827, I apologize. Resolution ratifying the award of an emergency contract to Modern Fold Styles, Inc. for the purchase and delivery of acoustic cleared paired panel folding wall for the City Hall basement project for the Department of Public Works. Item 10.35, Resolution 20-828 is a resolution honoring Andre Bertha and Joe Mercillo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing those names correctly, but I apologize if I'm not, for the service during the COVID-19 pandemic. Item 10.36, Resolution 20-829 is a resolution authorizing refunds due to overpayment of property tax accounts. Item 10.37, Resolution 20-830 is a resolution authorizing refunds due to New Jersey Tax Court appeals on various property tax accounts. Item 10.38, Resolution 20-831, the resolution authorizing a right of entry agreement with New Jersey Department of Transportation to enter onto properties known as blocks 11701, lot 5, block 11702, lots 3, 4, 5, block 11706, lots 1 and 2, and block 11707, lots 1 and 2, also known as the parcels E12A, DA12B, E12C, F12D, E12E, 12F, and 12G, located near structural supports of the Pulaski Skyway. Item 10.39, Resolution 20-832, it's a resolution authorizing the funding of a contract with Act Now Foundation for Senior Dementia Prevention Program for the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior Citizen Affairs. Item 10.40, Resolution 20-833 is being withdrawn. Just correct me if I'm wrong, John?
Yes.
Correct. I just got to revisit some of the terminology.
Okay, thank you. Item 10.41, Resolution 20-834 is a resolution to award a professional engineering service contract to Michael Baker International for the final design modifications for Communaport Avenue Safety Improvement Project 15-004T for the Department of Administration, Division of Engineering, Traffic, and Transportation. Item 10.42, Resolution 20-835. I'm not sure why this appeared on the agenda. This was actually, I believe, approved at the last council meeting.
Yeah, it should be withdrawn. It should be withdrawn, Sean.
Yeah, I apologize,
It was, yeah.
council members, and to the law department as well. I think we did speak about this. It should have been not placed on the agenda, but we'll mark it withdrawn.
No worries, Sean. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay.
All right. With that being said, does anyone have anything to add or any additional comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn at 5:39 p.m.?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Rivera. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by
I'm sorry,
Councilperson
can I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Prince Airy.
Hello? Council President, I lost the connection and I got unplugged. Can I just bring up that MUA matter?
Okay, you can bring up the MUA. And you know what you should do too? Send all the council the questions and concerns you have. This way here, they can pretty much understand it better too. And what I'll do is, like I said, I just bumped into him and He will definitely answer those questions.
Are you there? I'm having
He will answer the questions.
technical difficulties.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we taking the motion to adjourn?
Yeah, he having problems. I'm gonna talk to him offline.
Okay, so I have a motion to adjourn at 5:39 PM by Councilperson Rivera, seconded by Councilperson Prinzary. All in favor of the motion to adjourn at 5:39 PM by acclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are out of here at 5:39 PM. Thank you very much, members of Council President, members of the council, members of the public, and all the members of the staff behind the scenes. Thank you so much for making this possible and being the team player that you are, and great teamwork. And remember, when you're out and about, please make sure that you mask up. Stay safe. Take care. Have a great night.